Hey everyone, welcome back to the Suffolk Legal Innovation and Technology Lab's document assembly line workshops. Today's topic is how to set up an open source AI locally on your computer and what you can do with that. And our expert guest is JJ Asghar, developer advocate for IBM. I'll ask him to introduce himself in a minute. First, this workshop's being recorded and we will share it on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to find it on our blog at suffolklitlab.org or on YouTube by searching for Suffolk Lit Lab. If you're participating live on Zoom, please use the chat to ask questions. I'll call attention to them as we go. Or you can just chime in. That's fine too. It often helps to share your screen if we have problems. I don't think that'll maybe come up today, but possibly. But just wait until you're invited to share your screen. If you're hearing about the Lit Lab or the document assembly line for the first time, please head over to suffolklitlab.org to learn more. All right, let's get started. JJ, go ahead and introduce yourself and take it from there.
Thanks, Sam. Yeah, hi, my name is JJ Asghar, and as you said, I'm a developer advocate for IBM. I don't know what that means anymore either.
I was going to ask you to explain that.
Yeah, that role has changed significantly. But the TLDR of my responsibility at IBM is I own github.com/IBM. So if you go to github.com/IBM, that namespace and the majority of those others, I am the throat to choke when things go wrong in that situation. So needless to say, I'm very deep into the open source ecosystem of IBM, and I help kind of guide and advise in that space. Part of that is our AI ecosystem. And what we're going to talk today about is open source AI and how to get it running on your actual laptop. If you want to go ahead and Google literally open source space AI space workshop, hopefully it'll bring up ibm.github.io/open source-AI-workshop. And I will share my screen here in just a second. Yep. Thank you, Sam. That's exactly what I was looking for.
I'll share the link there and I'll make sure it's attached to the YouTube notes too. So
yep. You should see exactly this. Are you looking at the same thing I'm looking at, hopefully? No, you are looking at the wrong thing. Oh, no.
We are seeing your terminal.
Yes, that is not the one I wanted. This one right here. So this should be what you're looking at right here. Yep. So the best part about this is actually a self-paced lab. So you can kind of walk through it yourself. And I've learned one of the best ways for you to do this is as I'm kind of just meandering on about words, you actually walk through this and raise your hand or ask questions as you have problems with it. And I'll periodically ask the status of where you are. And if you've hit any issues, we can debug them live. That is actually the best way to do it because frankly, having an expert like me here when something goes pear-shaped usually gets you over that hump. But what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up installing something called Ollama. We're going to install something called Granite. We're going to hopefully install something called Open-WebUI, and that'll actually get you 95% of the way there. Ollama, I'm going to use some terms, and if those terms don't make sense, please go ahead and raise your hand or reach out, and I will explain them deeper. But if inside of software development now, there's something called Docker, and that is a way to distribute software. It's called a Docker container. Well, Ollama was actually written by some people who were at Docker at one point, and they figured out a way to take AI models and use the same verbs that you would do with Docker to be able to run it on your local machine, which is pretty cool. So you literally do Ollama pull or Ollama run or Ollama ls to see the models you have inside of it. Ollama has its own registry too, which is the exact same container registry as the Docker ecosystem. So you can pull directly from Ollama to be able to do it. And what you're going to end up doing is using Ollama to pull Granite, which is our open source model. And I'm going to bring up that website now. Give me 2 seconds. It is Ollama. What's the word? Ollama. Ollama. It's actually it's a play on a word, and I am completely blanking on it at this exact moment in time. But it's one of those internet jokes out there, and bonus points if you go ahead and find it yourself. So the core of this, and one of the reasons why I'm here to kind of hopefully show this off to y'all, is one of the One of the most interesting parts about this is the open source AI you will be using inside of Ollama is called Granite. What is Granite? Granite is something called a foundational model. And we all know what ChatGPT is. We all know what Copilot is. We all know what Claude is. If you didn't know, those are models all run out in the cloud on someone else's servers, right? They're all trained in certain ways and ran in certain ways that you do not have actual control of, and you can't verify the things. I'm going to sound a little tinfoily hat paranoid here, but it's important to recognize that these are actual business and uh, legal, in y'all's cases, things you need to think about that haven't really been litigated yet, but is you want to be on the right side of this in case it does come down and you've built processes around these things. So so let's take a quick step back. If you have been watching the AI ecosystem, you know that Claude or ChatGPT are all running data centers out on the internet somewhere. They take up a lot of power. I have kids. I want the earth to be around in 50 years for my kids. We are spinning up 3 Mile Island again because we have to have enough power to run some of these AI systems. That's not sustainable if we're already here and only about 2 or 3 years into this AI ecosystem. And that's not great, right? I understand people are building some really cool workflows around this with ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, but I'm not saying that there's a bubble, but there's a bubble, right? There's going to be a point where it's just not sustainable anymore. And if you look at all the ways the businesses are done, it's starting to smell a little fishy. So hopefully using something like the small language model, also known as an SLM, which is what Granite is, on your local laptop, you can get 95% of the same amount of work done, but on a local machine that you have full control over. One of the interesting parts about Granite too is the way it's been trained. Right now, there's only one real mainstream. I shouldn't say this out loud, and I know I'm being recorded. I'm sorry. Sorry, powers to be. The mainstream open source model out there is something called Qwen, Qwen, and that is from China. All the other models, Claude, Copilot, ChatGPT, they are all closed source models. They're never going to tell you how those models are actually trained or what's going on. It's their secret sauce. Okay, yes, OpenAI did release ChatGPT or GPT-OSS, but bear with me, they're never going to let them go because that's literally their value stream, right? IBM, on the other hand, we have actually gone out of our way for our Granite models to be fully open source, fully open weighted, fully open data, right? So you can actually go to IBM and ask for the training data that we use to build our models, and we will give it to you. We will also give you the weights so you can actually train it and see exactly what comes out of it and verify it back to back. We are so serious about this that if you prove that you use our Granite models and you get sued for copyright infringement or any other of the legal issues that AIs could bring up, we will put our lawyers in court with you to defend you because we are that serious about it. And I know I'm talking to a bunch of lawyers right now. That is how serious we are. We have taken that representation with Granite because we know without a doubt how our models are made, and we are willing to give it to the world on how that's done. Now, that's again the Granite open source model. We have other models too. We have a whole family of models. There's some nuance to it, and if you do end up to that point, first of all, hopefully you've reached out to me and we've worked closer together in the future. But there's some nuance to a few of those things. But the general idea is that, and that's really important to recognize. So as you are walking through this tutorial, right, you will be using the Granite model that is completely open source and free to work through some of these issues. So hopefully by this time, you've pulled down Ollama through uh, the pre-work lab, which is that lab 0, and you're probably right here sitting at Open-WebUI. What is Open-WebUI? Well, Open-WebUI is your interface to talk to the model. Now, normally people do use something that you can use Ollama, which should look somewhat like this. As you see, I have Granite 3.3 here. I also have Granite 4, and I have a few others inside of here, but Granite 4. Who is Batman? And this is running on my actual machine as we speak. But this interface isn't really super powerful, right? And as you can see, it is taking a little bit of time to run because it is spinning up, and I'm also I'm on a Zoom call, right? And I've got Artemis 2 over in the corner. I'm watching that's being prepared to be launched too. So I've got a few things going on, but as you can see, it does come out with some pretty useful information. Open-WebUI, on the other hand, is a much more robust system that you can actually add documents to. So Caroline, you had a question before we started. Do you want to go ahead and ask that now so I can kind of go into that? Oh, you're on mute, Caroline.
So I was trying to understand what it means if a chatbot is trained on the internet,
Yeah.
versus whether, if it's trained on the internet, that means it goes out and gets everything from the internet, or you want to limit it to only your information.
Yes. So that's actually a little bit of a complex question, because there's a few different parts to it. But we'll go from the very foundation of it and build up to the more challenging parts of it. So, in the most purest sense, excuse me, I keep coughing. The allergies are really bad down here in Texas right now. The most purest sense is your AI model has what it knows. I know that sounds weird when you say it out loud, but a model only knows what it knows, right? Like it's not intelligent, right? You'll never hear me call it artificial intelligence apart from this one time. I will say it then, but I will never say it again because it is an AI. It is not intelligent, right? It's just numbers. It's just the ability to try to find the next word in the percentage of what it's trying to answer ahead of time. So there is no intelligence into it whatsoever. So AI just knows what it knows. Literally, that model has a certain amount of data that's been injected inside of it with a lot of crazy math, and that's all it knows. Just like how I just did here with Batman. Where'd it go? That's not it. This one. It knew who Batman was, right? So in Caroline, your point is it only knows what it knows. Now, when you start using some of the other systems out there, like ChatGPT or Claude or all those, people have added plugins to go out to the internet, scrape the internet to look for information, and then distill it to what it knows about the stuff already and give you more information, right? It's the ability it's called the agentic system, right? If you ever hear of AI agents, that is kind of that whole ecosystem of the agentic workflow of basically having little minions to go out to go find other information or write code or do editing on your documents or whatever. That is a much more advanced way of interfacing with AIs, and ChatGPT and Claude have made it very easy for you to write those types of agents to be able to go do that work for you. But the challenge of that is a lot of them, by default, to your point, go out to the general internet, right? And I don't know about you, but I've been on the internet for a long time. I don't trust everything out on the internet. And sometimes the AI models have pull the wrong information, right? So it becomes challenging for you to do that, especially when you only wanted to have a very scoped amount of knowledge, right? And that's where something like the small LLMs or SLMs are coming into play, kind of like Granite or all the other ecosystems that exist out there with these models, where you can box them in to small amounts of space where it has only access to something called a RAG, which is a retrieval augmented generation, which is basically a database of specific things that it can ask for. One of the ways I like to describe it is if you imagine your AI model as a librarian, right? You can teach a librarian knows a lot of things. Not going to lie, they're amazing people, and maybe just maybe you want to now give them more knowledge, right? You want to teach them more about George Washington, for instance. Well, you have to send them back to school, right? So you go back to school, learn about George Washington, and then when you come up to that librarian, you're like, "Hey, librarian, where did George Washington grow up?" "Oh, that was Mount Vernon." "Okay, cool. Well, how many trees were on Mount Vernon?" They might not know that, but they know that Mount Vernon is where they lived. Well, a RAG, on the other hand, is like the library that librarian is standing inside of, where they can go find that book that has that's about George Washington and pull that knowledge out of that book and tell you that information. They don't have to have that immediately accessible, right? But it's available to them, and that's what a RAG is. So, Caroline, for your point, right? If you had a bunch of things that you want your AI only to know about in a very easy way, but not inside of its brain, but accessible, you would use something called a RAG to pull that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but why can't you say to ChatGPT or something, only look at the articles on this website? Don't give me any information from any other source. Or does it already, is the analogy there, all of that stuff is already in its working memory. So because it already thinks it's in its working memory, it doesn't go look it up in the book, in the library.
That's a great question. And that is implementation on the different systems out there. So all Claude, ChatGPT, Copilot, all of them have different guardrails around what you can and can't ask them to do. But there are also guardrails, so you have to trust that that third party has implemented correctly, right? This is one of those conversations of build versus buy, where we have to trust that, OpenAI or Microsoft or whatever, or Anthropic have built those guardrails. So you say, only look at these things. Do not go anywhere else. You have to trust that they have built that system to make sure that that AI doesn't, go out some other way. Where if you build the system yourself, leveraging something like Granite, you can actually make sure that you can look at the code to say, no, I know for a fact it does not have any ability to go out to Google to go do that research, right? It locks it completely into that system. You can run Granite completely by itself. If you bear with me 2 seconds. Right here is a Raspberry Pi. It runs the same Granite model y'all are installing on your machine. So you saw how quickly that answer for Batman came back. This is a Raspberry Pi running off of a USB powered machine, or USB stick, not stick, but USB cable. Normal Raspberry Pi, $150. I have a full access to the Granite model here, and I can do everything I need to do the work that I need to work with for my document processing using Doc Assemble. I can shove it through this machine, and it does everything I need for IBM. That's $150 to do that. How much money are you spending on ChatGPT and just sending all your data out to the world? I'm running it on a Raspberry Pi. Do you see the difference here? And then this Raspberry Pi could live in your data center. It could live at your desk. It could literally live in a drop ceiling above you, and nobody would even know it existed.
So is
right?
your Raspberry Pi, in your analogy, your librarian and her library?
So, great question. Very, very good question. So this would be the librarian, right? And then
but not her library, just her.
I could put the library on here very easily because RAGs are just a database. just like a MySQL or a Postgres
That's the
database.
library. The RAG is the library. Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So I could easily run a very small database, or not small. I mean, it's Raspberry Pi. I could run whatever I need to on here. But I could literally, actually, it's this way. By the way, that's the way it looks for it. This could literally live with all the knowledge you need for the legal documents that you're looking for instance, Caroline, right? Like you want it only to speak to the last 15 years. I don't know, whatever you're looking for, and have it scoped specifically for that on a Raspberry Pi that you know for a fact can't go anywhere else with it, right? And honestly, your IT team, when they found out about this, where they don't have to spend all this money to OpenAI or anyone like that for all these insanely expensive abilities to run, this could all be local on that too, which is a huge plus. Does that make sense?
So JJ, this was super easy. I happened to already have Homebrew installed.
Yeah,
So I ran a couple commands. I've got Open-WebUI. I've got Granite
yeah,
Micro running. Awesome.
yeah,
That's a piece of cake. And now I'm thinking, well, shoot, I've got a server running over there. Maybe I'll just stick it on my server and have my own running all the time. That's great. But so
exactly.
what I'm curious about is like, what is this good for and what isn't it good
Yeah.
for? Like where, I mean, obviously you said small language model and I saw micro. I saw that there's other levels. Like,
Mhm.
can I, is small enough that I can probably run it on my laptop, or am I going to start bogging down? Can I use this to run my D&D campaign, or can I use it as a coding assistant, or is it too dumb for those
Yeah.
things?
Um, so with all new technologies, right? You have to experiment a little bit to kind of figure out where you're comfortable with that space, right? And this the in the build versus buy conversation, right? If you just go buy it from one of the competitors that I've mentioned earlier, they're going to give you all the stuff that you want to make you comfortable to do the work, but they're also going to, charge you out the wazoo, right?
Mhm.
If you want something that you can build that fits your roles for what you're trying to do, then you're going to have to experiment to kind of figure out where those boundaries are. I will say that when I kept showing up and up on the screen earlier, I have been playing with something called OpenClaw recently. If you have heard of this thing, um, so it is an agentic system which is riddled with security issues. So do not run this in production. For the love of God, do not run this in production. Stay away from it. But for an experiment, um, that agentic workflow that I mentioned earlier to Caroline, it is a way to be able to run these agents in a relatively easy way. So what I'm doing is I'm using a larger model, and then I'm going to spin up a bunch of small agents with Granite that go and do certain jobs for me throughout the day. So for instance, if I need to write a blog post about something, well, I need to do some basic research. I need to, write out my blog post, and then I need an editor to come along to like fix all my spelling mistakes and my terrible grammar, and then I need someone to format it for me. So then these agents, which are going to be running in Granite, will actually wait for me to finish the document, see it, and then walk through it, and then come out with something at the very end for me. Basically, being my own editorial staff using Granite to do this work. And you can do this all with OpenClaw, which is pretty dang cool when you start playing with it. So I have this one big model because I have the luxury of access to really big models because IBM. Um, but then I want all these small models underneath it to do basically small, simple jobs for me. Because as you can see, with the knowledge that I need for editing my documents or having my voice, because I have so many different, I write in a very specific way, these models can go out and do that. So that's all that agentic workflow. So instead of going and creating all these things inside of OpenAI, I'm doing it on that Raspberry Pi, which is using OpenClaw to do it. And that was that terminal that you kept seeing in the background,
Okay.
working on it because I'm trying to build it. Sam, did I answer your question? I feel like I went on a tangent
Well,
there.
not quite. So I've got Copilot running on my system, and
Okay.
at our last workshop, I saw Quentin using the command line interface for that, and just sort of jumping into a directory, running Copilot, and
Yeah.
using it as a coding assistant. Or you can do it from like within VS Code.
Yeah.
Is there a way that I could plug this into that so that I could use it as like a real-time coding assistant with access to the files on my computer.
Yes. So there is a system called Granite Code out there, and then there's
Oh,
also Granite 4. They've kind of smashed them together, and you're probably gonna have to play with it a little bit, right, to figure out what the scope of the agent you're looking for. Excuse me for a second. But there's a piece of software called Continue.dev. Continue.dev is a plugin for VS Code specifically that will hook up to Ollama and allow you to run all your coding agent locally. So one of the challenges of Copilot specifically is Microsoft claims that they did not use GitHub to train their AI model. They claim it. There's no way for us to verify that. And if you care at all about having your source code and your data on the local machine, if you use Copilot, they claim they don't read it, but they have to send it somewhere to read it to be able to give you suggestions. So, you know, trust it how much you trust it, right?
semantics.
Exactly. So if you're super paranoid and really want to make sure your code is on your local machine and never leaves your ecosystem, then something using like Granite Code or Granite 4 for that matter, and Continue.dev will get you the lion's share of what you're looking for. It will not, admittedly, it will not be as good as Copilot because Copilot has a, multi-billion-dollar infrastructure behind it. But it's the difference, like what you're looking for. Are you looking for, talking to Claude to give you the thing back out and just prompt engineer get the thing? Or are you looking to use it as someone to bounce ideas off, that rubber duck idea, to be able to engage with it so you know exactly what it is and it is inside your walled garden instead of someone else's. Did I answer your question, Sam?
I think so. And now I'm looking at the list of Granite
Yeah.
models, and I'm wondering which Granite models should I be installing?
Yeah, well, so one of the things that this workshop, that if you are comfortable with it, if you start searching for some of our other workshops, the next one you should be looking at is something called dockling, and especially for the work y'all do, um, you should absolutely be taking a look at this. And this is a natural progression from where you are. This is kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Skipping ahead a little bit, but dockling is a document parser that leverages LLMs to be able to pull, i.e., maybe a volunteer system that Michelle and I are part of that might need to read a bunch of documents and turn them into, easier read stuff. Dockling can actually read and visualize these things and be able to credit so an AI model can figure out what it needs to do to be able to fill out documents or pull information. And back to Caroline's question about how do I, scope this down? You could process all your documents with something like Dockling and be able to put it into a RAG and make sure that it only ever stays inside of that database. This is like a day 2 conversation, right? After you get used to having a local AI model and understand kind of the sharp edges of it, because frankly, there are going to be it, again, because you're not spending billions of dollars over at a corporation. But when you start seeing that you have the power to be able to implement these things, you'd be shocked on how quickly you'll be able to just do exactly what you want without the insane overhead of those corporations. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's probably a reasonable point to stop and say, if people are trying to work through the workshop, is everything going smoothly, or are you stuck on anything?
Yeah. Sorry. So I get excited and I get,
No, I'm excited about it too. I feel the power flowing through my fingertips.
yeah. Will, it looks like you want to ask something. Go ahead.
It occurs to me that my question may just be that you're going to cover this next, but I've successfully gotten Ollama onto my machine. Very easy.
Okay.
Um, and yes, I guess like Sam, I'm wondering which model should I choose? And and how do I even download them? Because I feel like I can parse web pages that look like this sometimes, but I have no idea how to actually download a model
Sure.
from this page.
Sure. Yeah, let me jump into that. So The one I tell people mainly to start with. So if you go to ollama.com, right? Um, you go to Granite 4 right here. And this is probably the default one you want to run, right? There are multiple sizes of them. Right here, this 3B one right here will get you pretty far in general. It's not going to know the newest stuff in the world, but it'll get you enough to feel comfortable being able to play with a local model. And you can kind of immediately understand the scope of what it can and can't do because you'll be able to interface it with it. To Sam's point about his D&D campaign, right? I've used Granite 4 3B at a STEM night and used it to tell me stories about for kids, for parents, for bedtime stories, right? Like it turns out I was the AI guy at the STEM night, and I was like, "So, what is one of the challenges you have? What would be neat?" And they're like, I tell this story about princesses every single night. I'd really like to have, my second grader be able to give me a couple little more things, and I can ask an AI model, tell me a little bit more about this story and build a world for me. And they just literally put it in that prompt right then and there. And Granite came out with a really nice kind of way for that parent to continue that story. Now it seems kind of ridiculous in a business ecosystem, but if you imagine you can use it as kind of that intern that you need to like ask questions to, that rubber duck to be able to engage with to do it, or for that matter, take a look at documents or looking for that work. Will, does that make sense? Oh, you're on mute.
It does. And the command on that page is super simple because, I mean, Sam just asked about the pull command. I actually just ran the run and it just downloads the model and seems to.
Yes.
Yep.
Going back to the Docker container, so pulls the newest version and doesn't run it. Run
Mhm.
looks in your local machine to see if it already exists, and if it does, just spins it up. If it doesn't, it'll pull it down. But it doesn't pull down the newest version. So every once in a while, you want to do the pull command to pull them to. So if the model's been updated for some reason or another, it pulls it down. But like I was saying, this 3B one right here, that's the one I run on that Raspberry Pi. And it takes 2.1 gigs of RAM. On a modern day laptop, that's negligible, right? On a Raspberry Pi, that is a little bit rough, I'm not gonna lie. But this kind of goes into the conversation if you want to run this on your local machine, or if you want to, for Sam's point, on a server over in the corner in your bedroom, where should you play, right? Like what should you, like all the different options you have. Well, the best experience you're going to have with any of these local models is right now at least a Mac M2 processor and above, right? So a Mac 2, M2, M3, M4, and basically like one of those Mac minis. That's the reason why you see all the nerds now in California all buying up these Mac minis, is because frankly, that's the best interface right now for these local models. But if you don't have access to that, if you can get your hands on a gaming GPU that can run kind of the baseline of if you could run, what is it called? Cyberpunk 2077. If you know that game, if you can run that successfully and it's not choppy, surprisingly, that's around about where you should be comfortable being able to run a lot of these local models. It'll be enough of the GPU inside of it to be able to run it, and you'll be able to like interface with it so it's not like dog slow. One of the worst parts about playing in these local AI model ecosystem is the feedback loop if it's too slow, right? Because you want to be working at the speed of thought, right? You want to ask it something, or you wanted to give it a tool like you do with the competitors out there, and it comes back relatively quickly, right? But when you're running it on your local machine or your local server or your local desktop or whatever, if it takes 15 seconds for it to run, yeah, it might give it to you, but you've already context switched, right? So you need to, again, the build versus buy conversation, you kind of need to figure out where that scope is. Will, did I answer your question?
We did. Sorry, it took me a moment there. This is very interesting. So
Yeah, awesome. So hopefully you've started playing with the model now. You've pulled the model or you ran the model locally. If you haven't, like Will has said, he used Ollama and actually started interfacing with it with Ollama Run. If you can get Open-WebUI running, that does require a little bit of Python knowledge to be able to done on a Mac. For instance, you need create something called a virtual environment to run it. That's just basically making sure that it doesn't muddy your machine's Python. It gives it its own little entity of Python to be able to run it inside it. This instructions should be relatively clear for it. But what it does is builds a little interface for you, and it looks almost exactly like ChatGPT, which is pretty nice. But it only speaks locally, which is fun. And to Sam's point, if you do get comfortable running this on a server, you can actually use Open-WebUI on that server and be able to access it from your phone with multiple users on top of it. So if you have kids at home, for instance, and you want to give them an AI that will never give them the answer, but always ask questions, you can manipulate the AI so it doesn't give the answer, but it helps prompt them to the correct answer. Or it can become a tutor. There are ways to work around the system prompt so you can actually have them have a model that you can trust, i.e. Granite, to make sure that it only ever does X, Y, and Z that you want it to. It can empower you as a tutor because, frankly, they're going to be using AIs moving forward. I know education is fighting not to do it, but it's a losing battle. And we should probably just recognize that if we can build system prompts and guardrails around AIs so they don't just give the answer, it helps train them in asking the correct things. That'll be more beneficial. It's the equivalent of, the calculator, right? Like when I was growing up, I still had to do the math by hand, but eventually the teacher gave us the calculator because it was just easier for us to use the calculator to get to more advanced things. This is the same kind of principles, right? We still need to teach the reasoning and the ability to research by hand, but eventually they're going to be using AI to give them the answers they need because that's the quickest path to success for the role that they're trying to fulfill. Does that make sense? What other questions can I answer? And what other cool things have you discovered walking through this little workshop? And Sam, is there any questions in the chat? I have not been looking at it at all.
I don't think.
Yeah, Will had a question early on about the Raspberry Pi.
Oh, you want to know what Raspberry Pi are you using?
Oh, there was a Raspberry Pi 5, I believe. It was like just the standard one. Like I have gotten it working on the 3. That was not delightful. I'm not gonna lie, that was not delightful. But a Raspberry Pi 5, which okay, maybe $150, right? Well, with them now harder to find, might be a little bit more. But you get the point. Like you can still get extremely far with a Raspberry Pi 5.
JJ, if you do have a little more time, I would love to learn how to make it aware of the files on my computer or how to do that. I mean, you mentioned continue.dev or what. I admit
Yes.
I clicked on it and I went like, oh, now I'm running into things I don't understand.
Yes. So that is actually a little bit more. Are you willing to share your screen and maybe we can just kind of walk through it ourselves?
Yeah.
I don't have that interface like set up, and I don't want to just be fumbling around on the recording. But we can at least we can actually do it on your machine as we speak.
Yeah, maybe we can get close to get me unlocked at least.
Yes, there we
So,
go.
all right, okay, so I went
Yeah,
to the
can you
computer.
just narrate where you, what, right,
Yeah, so
what you've done so far?
okay, sure. So I have run the first few things, and I installed Homebrew, and so you just have to type in what was it, brew install Ollama, and wait for that to continue, and then brew install Open-WebUI. And I basically just copied and pasted from JJ's workshop. And that
That's the
got me to
goal.
the point where I installed a couple other models. So I've got Granite 4 latest. I installed those on the way the workshop showed by copying and pasting. And so now I have Open-WebUI set up on my computer like this, so that, yeah, like just like ChatGPT, I can type in questions here and get answers to them. But
Just FYI, Sam, one of the best quotes or questions I learned testing AI models is
mhm.
asking who is Batman and
Well, I
seeing
went
how,
with who is Aquaman.
okay, there you go. But seeing how much detail it gives you about
Oh,
the,
and like compare.
and compare. And it's a really interesting kind of data point to see all the different models out there and what they've been trained on and the scope of what they are, because it really is. It's because they're all very different when it comes to these things.
Sure. So if I ask the same question, then you can regenerate the answer here. If I regenerate it with micro, this is what I asked the first time. I think I'll get a much smaller answer.
When you say, so you did that drop down, is that what happened? When you say regenerate with micro, you did drop
So I
down?
selected a different model, and
Yeah,
then I just
gotcha.
selected regenerate from over here. Yeah.
And so this is information it already has in it. So Granite is a small language module. Model. It already
Mhm.
has a certain amount of information in there.
Correct.
Right. Okay. So,
This is in its training data.
Yeah.
and
This
can
is in
it,
its brain. In its
right?
brain.
Can
Yeah.
it go online and look for stuff?
By default, no.
I see. Gotcha. Okay.
Because you do not give like you could build. Okay.
It doesn't have permission yet to do that.
Correct. You need to build those bridges to be able to do it. You could use Open-WebUI to create that agent thing that I was talking about.
Yeah.
You can use something like OpenClaw to build that system to do that. But by default, the model only knows about what it knows.
Okay. Got it.
So what I was hoping to be able to do, and so now I'm going to switch to a repository. This is a WordPress child theme repository,
Okay.
and on my computer. So it's the CPT theme lit lab. And if I run Copilot from here, I'll start up GitHub Copilot,
Mhm.
and I can tell it yes to remember this, and I can say describe this.
So now you're running Copilot on your little cons
I'm running
terminal.
Copilot within this terminal, and I
Not
can I
when you
can
say this terminal, the thing with the black screen. So right now you're not doing
this is
anything.
yeah,
Granite.
this is a terminal.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It has nothing to do with Granite right now.
No, I ran Copilot, not Granite.
Right.
And so Copilot is analyzing my directory, and in a minute it's going to tell me what it thinks that I've given it a fair amount of data, so it's going to churn for a minute, but it's going to learn what this directory is. It's going to tell me
Mhm.
what it is, and then I can say, look for bugs, or I want it to do this now, and it'll be able to do that. I'd love to be able to do that with Granite instead.
Yes. Okay. So go ahead and
And
I'm
so
gonna throw.
here it is. Now it's got it. Here's a custom WordPress theme. Sets up custom post types. So it's figured out the Law Lab directory that I built. It's described. This is a pretty accurate description of what this is.
So just to preface again, you did send this off to
Yep.
Microsoft, and there's a significantly more what's a good word for it? Horsepower.
Much bigger computer there.
Much bigger computer doing this. But you can get pretty close with this by leveraging something like Granite Code. Granted, admittedly, Granite Code is a lot less, and it's going to be local, but you can get pretty far. I threw the link into the chat, but it's basically just another Git Ollama pull Granite code. And I would do, I don't know your machine. I would start with a 3B, but it goes all the way up to a 34B machine or model. And what we're going to do is if you go, yep, Granite.
What do I, is it?
Oh, Granite dash code. Granite dash code. And just do, yeah, or 3B. Perfect. And that should only take a second. There we go. And go ahead and open this up in VS Code when you're done. We'll go ahead and install the extension of continue.dev inside of it. And then from there, we should be able to just wire it up, and it should be pretty much done. And you should be able to ask it the same kind of questions.
Gotcha.
So go to the extensions inside of VS Code for me. Look for continue.dev. What? Continue. There we go. Top one. Install that guy.
That looks right.
It used to be continue.dev. My bad.
Will that work
then-
for Cursor as well? If it works for
yes.
VS?
Yes, it does. I mean, Cursor is just VS Code with just another couple more plugins on top of it.
Uh-huh.
If you go to the settings inside of there, or hang on, I used to have all these instructions in front of me. Give me 2 seconds.
I think I'm in the continue settings here.
Perfect. If you click on that continue, scroll down, there should be like an option to choose the model. Keep going. Keep going. Oh, they changed this on me again. Bear with me. I'm sorry.
It's all right. See, I've got something here. Oh, maybe it just,
they
select
moved
model
it.
right is right here.
Yeah, there we go. Perfect. Yes, that's exactly it. Add chat model and provider. Change that to Ollama right there, and then scroll down. Oh, that's not right. That provider should have. Go ahead and just hit delete all that.
Not Granite code.
There we go. Granite code. Perfect. Connect. And local config. That looks right. There we go. Yeah, I think that's right. So now just ask it in that that top. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Go ahead right there and ask anything. Just ask it a question.
It says it's not found in Ollama. Need to
All right,
install
good.
it.
Yeah, go ahead and install it. Yep.
Well, that's easy enough though. If that's all I have to do.
Yeah, let's try that again. Don't make a liar out of me.
This repository, meaning the repository that
This is a GitHub code repository.
you're already in the repository.
I've opened it as a VS Code project. Yeah.
Is that correct?
No.
Nope. Where is it? Okay.
Well, I'm wondering
no.
when you say this repository, if you have to tell it which repository you're talking about.
Well, I guess I was assuming it knew what file it was looking at, but
I think you have to tell it.
I mean, there was an @ sign for context, so we could give it the context.
Current
Yeah.
file is the file you wanted to describe.
sure. Oh, that's funny. So
I think,
I see it has some limitations.
well, I don't think you're telling it what when you say this, I don't think it understands what this is.
When
You
I
have to,
use Copilot, it does understand perfectly. That's why I'm
yeah.
asking it in these general terms.
Oh, I
Because
see.
I'm curious. I want to know how smart is this compared to
Yeah.
Copilot? Because if I say Copilot, describe this repository, then I mean we can go back to here. Oh, I closed it. But when I ask Copilot to describe a repot, so it'll give me a good detailed description. So I was just trying to find the edges of,
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
can I be as casual with this as I am with Copilot, or do I need to understand how to ask questions better? It sounds like I need to do a better job asking questions in order to get some value out of this.
And that's the sharp edges, right? Like
Yep.
Mhm.
you'll get there eventually, but it's again the build versus buy conversation, right? Like if you just want to be
Mhm.
able to just prompt engineer your way away and you have money for it, there's a whole story there. But same with the other models, right? Like there's other models out there from Granite that if you know how to work with them a little bit more, you'll be able to get a lot farther, and be able to like it's a little bit more engineering, if you will.
JJ, this is all super cool. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Very cool.
I don't know if I'm ready to give up on other AI tools, but I am feeling super empowered to have this on my PC. And sometimes when I ask simple questions, I don't feel like I need to, to leverage get the entire cloud moving to
Mhm.
answer my simple questions about things. So it's nice to just be able to do it from my PC.
Absolutely, and it's closer localization, which is important. And if you, God forbid, are in a place that loses power and you can't access the internet for some reason, and you're working on something and you want to, just unfortunately, even if you do lose power, sometimes you still have to work. And having that rubber duck model there, can actually get you pretty far. Again, I'm not lying. I'm doing so much work on that just simple Raspberry Pi with Granite. Admittedly, I do have a larger model that I do talk to also, but that's also a open source local model on another machine with just a GPU inside of it. But I have all these little OpenClaw agents running Granite to do the work I need to, and it's really getting me really far. Um,
Very cool. But like you said, don't use OpenClaw yet, right?
yeah, well, do not use
On
OpenClaw unless
production.
you, yeah, on production. If you're running on maybe a Raspberry Pi on a personal network that is impossible to get to apart from inside your network, go for it. But
Yeah,
if you have a VPS on the internet somewhere,
not on my
do not do,
laptop.
yeah, do not do that. Do not do
Okay,
that.
fair enough. Thank you, JJ. I appreciate it so much. And I'm going to stop recording, but I'm going to hang out for a little bit here too, in case anybody missed what we were doing or wanted to chat some more.